The beggar who returned a lost wedding ring. The morning sun had barely risen when Kofi dragged his worn slippers along the dusty roadside. Hunger clung to him like a shadow, and the weight of another day without promise sat heavily on his shoulders. He had slept beneath the old kiosk again, shivering through the night as the wind cut through the holes in his threadbare shirt. He moved slowly, eyes scanning the ground for anything he might sell, a bottle, a scrap of metal, even a forgotten coin. Life had taught him to search for survival in the places others ignored. That was when his foot brushed against something small and cold. He bent down, brushing sand aside, and uncovered a ring that glimmered even under the weak morning light. It was heavy, beautifully crafted, with a diamond that sparkled like captured sunlight. Kofi's breath caught. He had never held anything so precious in his life. The ring alone could feed him for years. It could buy clothes, a room to sleep in, maybe even a small business to rebuild his life. For the first time in months, hope flashed in his heart. But along with it came a quieter, heavier feeling, the thought of someone crying over this loss, someone searching for it with trembling hands. He closed his fist around the ring and whispered a prayer under his breath. All his life he had been poor, but he had never allowed poverty to steal his conscience. Returning it would hurt. Keeping it would heal his hunger. He chose hurt. Kofi walked from house to house, asking if anyone had lost something valuable. Most people brushed him away, some thinking he was begging, others assuming he had stolen something. But he kept searching, patient and determined. Hours later, he reached a blue-painted house with a sagging wooden gate. He hesitated, then knocked gently. A woman in her mid-30s opened the door, her eyes red and swollen as though she had been crying for days. When she saw Kofi standing there in tattered clothes, she looked confused and weary. He held out his hand. "I found this," he said quietly. "I'm looking for the owner." The moment her eyes landed on the ring, her knees weakened. A trembling hand flew to her mouth, stifling a sob as tears flooded her eyes. That ring belonged to my husband." Kofi froze, unsure what to say. She reached out, touching the ring as though it were made of something sacred. "He died last week," she whispered, voice shaking with grief. "It must have slipped from my pocket when I returned from the hospital. I thought it was gone forever." She took the ring with trembling fingers, clutching it tightly against her heart. Then she looked at him, really looked at him, his thin frame, the worn patches on his clothes, the exhaustion in his eyes. "Why didn't you sell it?" she asked softly. Kofi shrugged with a faint, sad smile. "Because it wasn't mine." Her tears returned, but this time they carried gratitude instead of sorrow. She invited him inside, sat him down, and offered him food, real food, warm food, the kind he had not tasted in years. He ate slowly, almost reverently, as though he feared waking from a dream. Before he left, she pressed an envelope into his hand. He shook his head quickly. "Madam, I don't want payment." "It isn't payment," she insisted. "It's thanks. My husband always said people like you still existed. Honest souls. You returned a piece of him to me. Please let me do this." He accepted it with hesitation. When he finally opened the envelope outside, tears filled his eyes. It was filled with money, more than he had ever held in his life, and a handwritten note. May the goodness you gave return to you in ways you never expect. Over the next few months, Kofi's life changed. He rented a small room. He bought new clothes. He started a tiny roadside store selling second-hand items. The community began to know him, not as the hungry beggar who wandered the streets, but as the kind man whose honesty changed his story. But no matter how much his circumstances improved, he never forgot the lesson of the ring. Sometimes the blessings we return come back to us in ways we can't imagine. And somewhere in the blue-painted house, a widow prayed every night for the stranger who reminded her that even in the hardest moments, goodness still lived in the world. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.